Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun!
Jericho stared at his distorted reflection in the mirror, his breath catching in his throat. The face staring back at him was a shocking contrast to his memory. Raccoon-like smudges encircled his eyes, drawn with a heavy hand, and his lips were painted with an alarming shade of scarlet, more reminiscent of a horror movie clown than a polished look. His skin, caked in foundation, appeared alien compared to his bare neck. He leaned in, inspecting the damage. The attempted precision of the eyeliner had failed miserably, resulting in haunting half-moons that dominated his delicate features. Maybe he could salvage this disaster with a bit more coverage. The YouTube tutorial had made it look so simple. Just tap a small amount onto your brush, the perky influencer had instructed. Then dust it lightly over your foundation for a flawless finish. Jericho pried open the lid, fumbling with his newly manicured press-on nails. Another nightmare of an experience that had resulted in 3 of the 10 already popping off. The white powder inside looked innocent enough. He inhaled to steady himself. Bad move. The sudden intake of breath triggered an explosive sneeze, launching directly into the open powder container. A mushroom cloud of white dust erupted, coating his face, the purple dress, the sink, the mirror, and most of the bathroom tiles in a fine layer of chalky substance. For a moment, he stood frozen in disbelief, blinking through the settling particles. Then, catching his reflection, now a ghostly white apparition with raccoon eyes and clown lips, stuffed into a purple dress, Jericho couldn't help himself. He burst out laughing. The absurdity of it all hit him all at once. Here he was, 32 years old, attempting a cross-dressing costume for a Halloween party because his friend Todd had joked that he'd make a hot woman. What had possessed him to take that as a challenge? His phone chimed from the counter, thankfully spared from the powder explosion. A text from Todd. "You better be getting pretty. Car's coming in 15. 15 minutes? Impossible. He'd need a pressure washer and a makeup artist miracle team to fix this catastrophe in 15 minutes. Another chime. And remember, the theme is magical transformation. Go all out. Magical transformation. Right. Jericho looked at his disaster of a face once more and made a decision. He grabbed a clean washcloth, dampened it, and began wiping everything off to start fresh. Screw the YouTube tutorial, he muttered. I'm doing this my way. 10 minutes later, he had managed to remove most of the original makeup disaster and apply a more reasonable attempt. The foundation still wasn't perfect, but at least it somewhat matched his skin tone. The eyeliner was wobbly but contained. The lipstick stayed mostly where it belonged. He adjusted the purple dress, which clung uncomfortably to his frame. The padding he'd stuffed into the chest area to create the illusion of breasts kept shifting around, making him look lopsided. His legs, hastily shaved that morning, still had patches of stubble he'd missed. Another text chimed. Car's here! Get your magical ass downstairs! No time for further adjustments. Jericho slipped his feet into the black heels he'd bought at a thrift store, a size too small, but the only pair he could find in men's size 11, grabbed his wallet and keys, and hobbled out of his powder-covered bathroom. This better be worth it, he grumbled, wobbling down the stairs of his apartment building, one hand on the railing, the other hitching up the dress that threatened to ride up with each step. The Uber driver did a double take as Jericho approached, but simply asked, Halloween party? How'd you guess? Jericho replied dryly, awkwardly folding himself into the back seat, the dress riding up dangerously. The address is Aurora's place, right? The driver confirmed. That's right. Aurora's annual Halloween bash was legendary. Each year had a different theme, and this year's magical transformations had guests buzzing for weeks. Everyone would be there. Friends from college, co-workers, even a few of Jericho's exes, including Danielle, whom he still harbored feelings for, despite their breakup 6 months ago. The thought of Danielle seeing him like this sent a wave of self-consciousness through him. But it was just a costume, he reminded himself. A joke. Nothing more. 20 minutes later, the Uber pulled up to Aurora's Victorian home, already pulsing with music and glowing with orange and purple lights. Costumed revelers spilled onto the front lawn, drinks in hand. Good luck, the driver said, as Jericho extracted himself from the back seat, fighting with the purple fabric. He took a deep breath and wobbled toward the front door. Before he could knock, it swung open, revealing Aurora herself, dressed as some kind of sorceress in flowing midnight blue robes covered in silver stars. Her eyes widened at the sight of him. Jericho?
Oh my God!
She clapped her hands in delight.
You actually did it! Todd said you were coming in drag, but I didn't believe him!
Jericho gave an awkward curtsy, nearly losing his balance in the process. Surprise? You look... Aurora tilted her head, studying him. Actually, come with me. I can help with a few things. Before he could protest, she grabbed his hand and pulled him through the crowded house, past pirates who had transformed into mermaids, werewolves mid-transformation, and at least 3 variations of Jekyll and Hyde. Finally, they reached her bedroom, which she had declared off-limits to guests with a velvet rope across the doorway. Sit, she commanded, pointing to her vanity stool. Aurora, I'm fine. Your foundation doesn't match. Your eyeliner is uneven, and whatever you did with that contour is criminal. Let me fix you up. Seeing no way to refuse gracefully, Jericho sat. Aurora worked quickly, removing his makeup with wipes and then applying fresh products with expert precision. Why are you so good at this? He asked as she blended foundation along his jawline. I was theater major, remember? Plus, I've been doing drag shows at the Velvet Curtain on weekends for extra cash. She stepped back, assessing her work. Now for the hair. What's wrong with my hair? Jericho asked, touching his short brown locks. Aurora disappeared into her closet, returning with a wig on a stand. Nothing that this won't fix. The wig was a cascade of auburn waves that fell past the shoulders. She positioned it carefully on his head, adjusting and pinning until it looked surprisingly natural. The color suits you, she said, fluffing the strands around his face. Something about auburn hair with your green eyes. It just works. Jericho stared at his reflection, momentarily speechless. The person looking back wasn't just him in smudged makeup and a dress. With Aurora's skilled hand, he had been transformed into someone who could genuinely pass as female. Soft features emphasized, jawline subtly contoured away, lips fuller, eyes more expressive. Holy shit, he whispered. Aurora grinned. I know, right? You're actually pretty as a woman. Let's fix that dress too. She disappeared again, returning with a safety pin and a black shawl. This will hide the fact that your shoulders are too broad for that neckline. After a few adjustments, the dress sat better. The shawl draped elegantly across his shoulders, and the padding in his chest looked more natural. One last thing, Aurora said, handing him a small velvet pouch. My contribution to the magical transformation theme. Jericho opened it, finding a delicate silver necklace with a small crystal pendant. It's beautiful, but I can't take this. It's just costume jewelry, she assured him. But legend says crystals like this can reveal your true self. Very on theme, don't you think? She fastened it around his neck before he could protest further. No, go enjoy the party. And fair warning, Todd has been telling everyone you're his cousin visiting from out of town, not Jericho in costume. He wants to see if anyone recognizes you. He trapped in a reality that was not her own, yet she had to navigate. Jericho stood up too quickly, wobbling in the heels. Aurora steadied him. Just go with it. It'll be fun. Fun wasn't exactly the word Jericho would have chosen, but he was already here, already transformed. Might as well commit to the bit. When they returned to the party, Todd spotted them immediately, beelining across the room. He was dressed as a mad scientist, complete with wild white hair and a lab coat splattered with glowing green paint. "There's my lovely cousin," he crowed, throwing an arm around Jericho's shoulders.
"Everyone, meet my cousin Jerica, visiting from Seattle."
Jericho shot him a death glare, which Todd cheerfully ignored.
"Jerica,"
he hissed under his breath.
"Best I could come up with on short notice."
Todd whispered back, still grinning. Then, louder. "Jerica, let me introduce you to everyone." The next hour passed in a blur of introductions. Surprisingly, none of their mutual friends recognized him. Even Mark from accounting, who sat in the cubicle next to Jericho's for 3 years, chatted with Jerica about Seattle's weather without a flicker of recognition. It was both amusing and slightly disturbing how completely his transformation had erased his identity. Several men at the party even flirted with him, including Craig from Todd's rugby team, who had always been aggressively heterosexual and somewhat dismissive of Jericho.
"So, Jerica,"
Craig said, sidling up with 2 drinks, offering one to Jericho.
"How long are you in town for?"
Jericho accepted the drink, fighting a smile.
"Just a few days."
"That's a shame. I'd love to show you around." Craig moved closer, his eyes dropping briefly to the neckline of the purple dress.
"I'm good, thanks. I know the city pretty well."
Jericho took a sip of the suspiciously strong cocktail.
"You know, you have the most amazing eyes,"
Craig continued, apparently undeterred. "They're like emeralds or something."
"That's the lamest line I've ever heard,"
Jericho replied before he could stop himself. Instead of being offended, Craig laughed. "Fair enough, but I'm serious about the eyes. And that auburn hair. It's your natural color, right? It suits you perfectly." Yeah, all natural." Jericho touched the wig self-consciously. Craig leaned closer. "Look, I'm usually not this forward, but there's something about you. Would you want to maybe grab coffee tomorrow?" Before Jericho could formulate a response, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. "Sorry I'm late, Aurora. The Uber driver took the scenic route and—" The voice stopped abruptly. Jericho turned to see Danielle standing a few feet away, stunning in a butterfly costume, with delicate wings attached to her back and antenna on a headband. Her dark hair was pulled into an elegant updo, her brown eyes wide with surprise. "Jericho?" she said, her voice uncertain. Craig looked between them, confused.
"This is Jerica, Todd's cousin."
Danielle's eyes narrowed, studying Jericho's face. A slow smile spread across her lips.
"No, that's definitely Jericho. I'd know those eyes anywhere, even with all that makeup."
The jig was up. Jericho sighed, offering a small wave. "Hey, Danny." Craig backed away slowly, his expression a mix of confusion and embarrassment.
"I need another drink,"
he muttered, disappearing into the crowd. Danielle approached, her wings bobbing slightly with each step. "So, magical transformation theme, huh?"
"Todd's idea,"
Jericho explained, suddenly very conscious of how he looked. "It was supposed to be a joke, but then Aurora got involved with her makeup skills, and, well, you look good," Danielle said, her tone genuine. "That auburn hair really brings out your eyes." Something about the way she said it made his heart skip. They stood in awkward silence for a moment. "Want to get some air?" Danielle finally asked. "It's stuffy in here." Jericho nodded, following her through the crowd and out onto Aurora's back deck, which was mercifully empty. The October night was cool but not cold, the sky clear and filled with stars. "So," Danielle began, leaning against the railing. "How have you been?" "Good," Jericho said automatically, then amended. "Well, mostly good. Busy with work. You?" "Same. The new job is challenging, but in a good way." She studied him. "You know, it's funny. I always said you'd make a beautiful woman, and I was right." Jericho blinked in surprise. "You never said that." "I thought it," she replied with a small shrug. "There's always been something, I don't know, fluid about you. The way you move, the way you see the world. It's one of the things I loved about you." Loved. Past tense. The word stung more than it should have after 6 months. "Why did we break up, Danny?" The question slipped out before he could stop it, facilitated perhaps by the strong cocktail Craig had given him. Danielle sighed, looking out at the darkened garden. "You know why. You were hiding parts of yourself, even from yourself." "What parts?" She turned to look at him directly. "The parts that allowed you to transform into Jerica tonight and feel more comfortable than I've seen you look in ages." Jericho wanted to protest, to say he was just playing a role for Halloween. But something stopped him. The crystal pendant at his throat seemed to grow warm. I don't think I'm..." He struggled to find the words. "You don't have to label it," Danielle said gently. "But I always felt there was a part of you locked away, a part you wouldn't let me or anyone else see. Tonight, I feel like I'm finally meeting that part." The crystal grew warmer still, almost hot against his skin. Jericho touched it, confused by the sensation. "What is this thing anyway?" he asked, changing the subject. Danielle leaned closer to examine the pendant. "It's pretty. Aurora's?" "Yeah, she said something about it revealing your true self." Danielle laughed. "That sounds like Aurora and her crystal magic. She's been into that stuff since college." "You don't believe in it?" "I believe we all have magic inside us," Danielle said thoughtfully. "Not the wand-waving kind, but the kind that transforms us when we finally accept who we really are." The crystal pulsed with heat now, and Jericho felt a strange sensation spreading through his body, a tingling that started at the pendant and flowed outward to his fingertips and toes. "Are you okay?" Danielle asked, noticing his expression. "You look weird."
"I feel weird,"
Jericho admitted. "Kind of tingly." He swayed slightly, gripping the railing for support. The world seemed to shift around him, colors intensifying, sounds becoming sharper. The crystal burned against his skin, but when he reached to remove it, he couldn't seem to grasp it properly. "Jericho?" Danielle's voice sounded distant. A wave of dizziness washed over him, and he closed his eyes, fighting the sensation. When he opened them again, something felt profoundly different. His chest felt heavier. The purple dress, which had been tight in the shoulders, now fit perfectly. The padding that had been shifting around was gone, replaced by actual flesh. "Oh my God," Danielle whispered, staring at him with wide eyes. Jericho looked down at himself. No, herself, in confusion and dawning realization. The body beneath the purple dress had transformed. Soft curves replaced angular lines. The hands that gripped the railing were smaller, the fingers more delicate, the press-on nails now seemingly a natural part of them. "What's happening to me?" Jericho's voice emerged higher, softer. Danielle reached out hesitantly, touching Jericho's cheek. "Your face, it's changed. You're really—" She shook her head in disbelief. "This can't be real." Jericho rushed back into the house, pushing past confused partygoers to find the nearest bathroom. Locking the door, she stared at the mirror in shock. The person looking back wasn't just Jericho in good makeup and a wig. The face had subtly reshaped, cheekbones higher, jaw softer, lips fuller even without the lipstick. The auburn hair that had been a wig was now growing naturally from her scalp, cascading in waves past her shoulders. And the body. There was no padding creating the illusion of breasts now. They were real, straining against the fabric of the purple dress. The waist had narrowed, the hips widened. Everything had changed. "This is impossible," she whispered, her new voice strange in her ears. A knock on the bathroom door startled her. "Jericho? Are you in there?" It was Aurora. With trembling hands, Jericho unlocked the door. Aurora slipped inside, closing it behind her. "Danielle told me something weird is happening," she began, then stopped, her eyes widening as she took in Jericho's transformed appearance. "Holy shit!" "What did you give me?" Jericho demanded, clutching at the crystal pendant. "What is this thing?" Aurora reached out slowly, touching the crystal with one finger. "I got it from a woman at the Mystic Market last weekend. She said it was enchanted to reveal one's true nature, but I thought it was just, New Age marketing speak. I didn't think it was actually magical." "Well, clearly it is!" Jericho's voice rose in panic. "Look at me. I'm a woman," Aurora finished, her expression a mix of awe and concern. "A very beautiful woman, if that helps at all." It didn't help. Jericho sank onto the closed toilet lid, head spinning. "How do I change back?" Aurora bit her lip. "I don't know. The woman didn't mention anything about it being permanent." "You need to call her. Now." Aurora nodded, pulling out her phone. "I don't have her number, but I know where her stall is. I'll go there first thing tomorrow morning." "Tomorrow? I can't stay like this until tomorrow." "It's after midnight. The market's closed." Jericho groaned, burying her face in her newly delicate hands. "This can't be happening." A soft knock on the door interrupted them. "Jericho, it's me," Danielle called. "Can I come in?" Aurora opened the door just enough to let Danielle slip inside, then locked it again. The small bathroom was cramped with the three of them. Danielle stared at Jericho with a mixture of disbelief and fascination. "It's really real then. You've actually transformed." "Apparently," Jericho said weakly. "How do you feel?" Danielle asked, kneeling in front of her. It was a surprisingly complex question. Beyond the panic and confusion, Jericho realized there was something else, a strange sense of rightness. The body that had always felt slightly awkward, slightly wrong, now seemed to fit better somehow. "I don't know," she admitted. Scared, confused, but also, she struggled to find the words. Also, trapped in a reality that was not her own, yet she had to navigate. Danielle prompted gently. "Also, like, maybe this isn't entirely wrong? Which makes no sense because of course it's wrong. I was born male. I've lived 32 years as a man. I can't just suddenly be a woman because of some magic crystal at a Halloween party." Yet the evidence was undeniable. The reflection in the mirror, the weight on her chest, the curve of her hips, the softness of her skin, all of it felt real, terrifyingly, confusingly real. "What am I going to do?" Jericho whispered. "My job, my apartment, my life, everything is set up for Jericho the man, not whoever I am now." "Jericho," Danielle said softly. Jericho looked up sharply. "What?" "You're Jericho now, at least until we figure this out." The name resonated strangely, feeling both foreign and familiar at the same time. Aurora's phone chimed with a text. She checked it, then looked up with concern. "That was Todd. People are starting to notice we're all missing. We should get back to the party before someone else comes looking." "I can't go back out there like this," Jericho, or Jerica, protested.
"Everyone already met you as Jerica,"
Danielle pointed out.
"No one will know anything has changed except us. And Todd,"
Aurora added.
"We should tell him."
Jerica took a deep breath, trying to calm the panic rising in her chest.
Okay. We go back to the party, act normal, and tomorrow you talk to the crystal lady." "Exactly," Aurora nodded. "It'll be okay. Magic that can change you can surely change you back."
The words weren't as reassuring as they were meant to be, but Jerica had little choice. She stood, adjusting the purple dress, which now fit her transformed body perfectly. "Let's get this over with," she said, reaching for the door handle. The rest of the party passed in a surreal blur. Todd, once informed of the situation, vacillated between stunned disbelief and inappropriate curiosity about Jerica's new anatomy. Questions quickly shut down by Aurora and Danielle. Most partygoers were too drunk or too caught up in their own costumes to notice anything amiss with Todd's cousin. Craig attempted to resume his flirtation, unaware of the cosmic joke being played on both of them, until Danielle firmly inserted herself as Jerica's protective companion for the remainder of the evening. By 2 a.m, as the party wound down, exhaustion had replaced panic for Jerica. The initial shock had faded into a kind of numb acceptance, at least temporarily. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, she just wanted to sleep. "You can stay at my place," Danielle offered as they helped Aurora clean up the worst of the party debris. "I don't think you should be alone tonight." The offer surprised Jerica. Since their breakup, they had maintained a careful distance. "Are you sure?" Danielle nodded. "Of course. Whatever's happening, we'll figure it out together." The simple statement brought unexpected tears to Jerica's eyes. She blinked them back, nodding. Aurora handed over a small overnight bag. Some essentials, she explained. Pajamas, toiletries, a change of clothes for tomorrow. They should fit your new dimensions. Thank you, Jerica said, taking the bag. And promise you'll call me the minute you speak to the crystal woman. First thing, Aurora promised. Try to get some rest. Magic often works itself out overnight in the stories. If only real life followed the rules of stories, Jerica thought as she and Danielle climbed into an Uber outside Aurora's house. The driver, different from the one who had picked up Jericho earlier that evening, saw only 2 women in Halloween costumes heading home after a party. Danielle's apartment was familiar territory. Jericho had practically lived there during their relationship. Walking in now as Jerica felt strange, like revisiting a childhood home as an adult. Do you want something to drink? Tea, maybe? Danielle offered, shedding her butterfly wings and antenna. Tea would be great, Jerica replied, setting down Aurora's overnight bag. She kicked off the painful heels with relief, wiggling toes that had been cramped for hours. As Danielle busied herself in the kitchen, Jerica wandered to the living room window, looking out at the city lights. The crystal pendant still hung around her neck, no longer warm but now seemingly just an ordinary piece of jewelry. She touched it gently, wondering at its power. Here you go, Danielle said, returning with 2 mugs of chamomile tea. She had changed out of her costume into sweatpants and a faded university t-shirt. Do you want to change? Aurora packed some pajamas. Jerica nodded, suddenly very aware of still being in the tight purple dress. Yes, please. In Danielle's bathroom, Jerica carefully removed the dress, unprepared for the sight of her transformed body fully revealed. The curves and contours were undeniably female. Full breasts, narrow waist, wider hips. Even her skin seemed different, softer, smoother. The auburn hair that had replaced her brown wig fell past her shoulders in natural waves, framing a face that was recognizably hers, yet fundamentally changed. She touched her cheek, marveling at the subtle differences in bone structure. Aurora had packed silk pajama shorts and a matching camisole in a deep green color. They fit perfectly, as if made for Jerica's new body. She stared at her reflection for a long moment, trying to reconcile the image with her sense of self. Everything okay in there? Danielle called through the door. Yeah, Jerica replied, gathering up the purple dress. Just adjusting. When she emerged, Danielle was sitting on the couch, both mugs of tea on the coffee table. She looked up, her expression softening at the sight of Jerica in the pajamas. Green suits you, she said. Brings out your eyes. Jerica sat on the opposite end of the couch, picking up her tea. This is so weird, Danny. I keep expecting to wake up and find out this was all some bizarre dream. I know. Danielle sipped her tea thoughtfully. But if it helps at all, you make a very natural-looking woman. If I didn't know you were Jericho, I'd never guess you weren't born female. It did help, strangely enough. Thanks. Though I have no idea how to be a woman. I mean, what do I do tomorrow? What if Aurora can't find the crystal lady? What if this is permanent? Danielle considered this. If it is permanent, and I'm not saying it will be, but if it is, would that be the worst thing in the world? The question caught Jerica off guard. What do you mean? Just earlier, on the deck, you said it didn't feel entirely wrong. Danielle's tone was careful, non-judgmental. What did you mean by that? Jerica stared into her tea, thinking. I don't know exactly. It's like, all my life there's been this vague feeling that something wasn't quite right, that I was playing a role rather than being myself. I always attributed it to normal stuff. Career dissatisfaction, relationship issues, the usual existential angst. She took a breath, trying to organize her thoughts. But now, in this body, despite the shock and the fear, there's this underlying sense of alignment, like puzzle pieces clicking into place. That doesn't sound like someone who's desperate to change back, Danielle observed quietly. Jerica looked up sharply. Are you saying I wanted this to happen? No, not consciously, but maybe subconsciously. Maybe the crystal really does reveal your true nature, as Aurora said. The idea was both terrifying and strangely compelling. Even if that were true, I can't just start living as a woman overnight. My job, my friends, my family, they all know me as Jericho. People transition all the time, Danielle pointed out. Usually not overnight and certainly not by magic, but the point is, it's possible to live authentically even if it means big changes. Is that what you think I should do? Just accept this and move on as Jerica? Danielle shook her head. I can't tell you what to do. Only you know what feels right. I'm just saying that whatever happens, whether Aurora finds a way to reverse this or not, you have options. And you have people who care about you and will support you. Like you? The question slipped out before Jerica could stop it. Danielle reached across the couch, taking Jerica's hand.
Yes, like me. Whatever you decide.
The touch sent a warm current through Jerica's body, reminding her of feelings that had never really faded despite their breakup. The comfort of Danielle's presence, always a constant during their relationship, felt even more profound now in the midst of this impossible situation. Thank you, Jerica whispered, squeezing Danielle's hand. They finished their tea in comfortable silence, the questions about tomorrow temporarily set aside. When Danielle offered her bed, insisting she would take the couch, Jerica was too exhausted to argue. Lying in Danielle's bed, surrounded by her familiar scent, Jerica touched the crystal pendant once more before drifting into an exhausted sleep, wondering what morning would bring. She dreamed of transformations, butterflies emerging from cocoons, seeds growing into trees, caterpillars becoming moths. In the dream, she stood before a mirror that showed not her reflection, but her essence, a swirl of colors and light that gradually took shape, becoming clearer and more defined until it finally settled into the form of a woman with auburn hair and green eyes. When morning came, sunlight streaming through Danielle's curtains, Jerica woke slowly, momentarily disoriented. The events of the previous night seemed distant and dreamlike, until she became aware of her body beneath the sheets. The transformation remained. She wasn't sure whether to be disappointed or relieved. The smell of coffee drew her to the kitchen, where Danielle stood at the counter, already dressed in jeans and a white sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. "Morning," Danielle said, offering a mug. "Sleep okay?" Jerica nodded, accepting the coffee. "As well as could be expected, considering. Aurora texted. She's heading to the Mystic Market as soon as it opens at 10. She'll call us after she talks to the Crystal Woman." Jerica glanced at the clock on the microwave. 8:37. Just over an hour to wait. "I put some clothes for you on the bathroom counter," Danielle continued. Aurora packed a few options. After a quick shower, another surreal experience in her transformed body, Jerica examined the clothes Aurora had sent. There were jeans, a cream-colored blouse, a burgundy sweater, and even underwear and a bra in what appeared to be the correct sizes. Figuring out the bra was a challenge, but after some awkward fumbling, Jerica managed to hook it properly. The rest of the clothes went on more easily, fitting her new proportions perfectly. The auburn hair was another matter, tangled and unruly from sleep. She found a brush in Danielle's drawer and carefully worked through the knots, surprised at how long the process took compared to her former short haircut. When she emerged, Danielle looked up from her phone, her expression appreciative. "You look nice. Very autumn." Jerica smoothed down the burgundy sweater self-consciously. "Thanks. It feels weird wearing these clothes, but they're comfortable." "How are you feeling this morning? About everything, I mean." It was a complex question. The initial panic had subsided, replaced by a strange mix of curiosity, anxiety, and something else, a quiet certainty growing in the back of her mind. "Still processing," Jerica replied honestly, "but less freaked out than last night." Danielle seemed about to say more when her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. "It's Aurora." Jerica's heart rate accelerated as Danielle answered, putting the call on speaker. "Hey, I'm with Jerica. You're on speaker." "Morning," Aurora's voice came through. "I'm at the market. I found the woman's stall, but she's not here. The guy at the neighboring booth says she only comes on the last weekend of each month." Jerica's stomach dropped. "That's a week away." "I know. I'm sorry." Aurora sounded genuinely contrite. "I asked if anyone knew how to contact her, but apparently she's pretty mysterious. No phone, no email. Old school." "Did you at least get her name?" Danielle asked. "Madame Vega, according to the sign on her empty stall. I'm going to leave a note for her and check back every day this week, just in case she shows up early." Jerica sank into a kitchen chair, mind racing. She had always imagined having the opportunity to experience life as someone else would be thrilling, even liberating. But now, sitting on the edge of the bed, she couldn't help but feel trapped. Trapped in a reality that was not her own, yet she had to navigate. What she had thought to be an exciting adventure for a week now seemed like an insurmountable challenge. The mundane suddenly became a complex puzzle. Grocery shopping, taking a stroll in the park, even binge-watching a TV series were all tasks that required reevaluation and strategic planning.
Thanks for watching my girlies. Be sure to check out Patreon for more.